Hello everybody, I'm going to talk about regression to cause. Now regression to cause is, in my story at least, the royal road to learning yourself. It's one of the most wonderful aspects of hypnotherapy, because what you're doing is quietening the part of you that thinks it knows it all, that labels everything, and permitting the rest of you to express itself. You know, the subconscious tends to be quiet. It tends to speak first, but you tend to have a urge to edit it, right? The conscious part of your mind kind of goes, oh, it's not that, right? You may notice from time to people starting sentences by saying, well, I know it's not this, but usually that, right? So regression. So basically what's going on with regression is that you are understanding the hardwired habitual responses that you exhibit today, right? You're learning where they came from, the meaning that underpins them. And then you can reassess if that's right or wrong, even if it's your interpretation or if you just learned it from someone else. If the interpretation that you made was a chance occurrence and that there are thousands of other interpretations, but that you've hooked and grasped your mind around one in particular. So all I'm saying is, if you can go back to the earliest understandings of where your fixed ideas came from, then wow, the sky is the limit. Okay, so how do you do it? Hypnosis is the best, right? Obviously, I would say that because this is my preferred means of learning about myself, and it's my preferred means of showing this to other people. But it's not the only way. The reason why hypnotic regression is fantastic is because when consciously you try to go back to earlier experiences in life, you tend to do it in a linear fashion. You tend to go back consciously, you tend to go back through the experiences of your life, and it's kind of hard to follow that thread all the way back to, you know, t+0. In hypnosis, it's a very different experience. What happens is that you can exaggerate an emotion, and it's almost like your mind has a historical blueprint of all the times in your life when you felt that emotion. So because this critical, judgmental side of your brain has just relaxed a bit, it's gone quiet, it's easier to find your way back like that to these earlier experiences. Now, that's not to say the first time you do it, you're going to go back to the first one. You may have to go back again, okay? But nonetheless, it's a brilliant way of doing it. You go back to the first time that you could recall that feeling, wherever you are. Okay, now, is that a familiar feeling, or is this a real, what the heck is this sort of feeling? If it's familiar, you go back again, but you get there very, very easily. And so you can learn about yourself. But it's not the only way to do it, okay? You can do it consciously. It's just that in order to do it consciously, you need to throw away the judgmental, critical side of your mind, which is trying to take ownership for everything, that's trying to edit everything. So if you can come with a very meditative state of curiosity, tell yourself you haven't a clue, okay? You just want information, you just want feedback. That can do it. There's an amazing book which is written by a guy called Michael Brown called The Presence Process. It's a slow process that you experience over the course of many weeks. That can be fantastic. The whole thing is basically getting you out of your head. You know, I used to think that I was a brain being transported by a body. I think this is a very common thing. In actual fact, when you get out of your head and you start to experience yourself as an organism rather than as a mechanism, rather than being cause-effect and being a multitude of stimuli and response, you know, that are organic in nature rather than mechanic in nature, well then suddenly you can start to observe yourself in an amazingly different way. And regression for me is just the best way of doing that, because you understand yourself. You know, all goes back to the Stoics again. Understand yourself, yeah? Try it. Try it with a sense of kind of open curiosity and see where you get to. Guarantee you it's illuminating, eye-opening. All right, the wind is going, so I'll say goodbye. Take care.